back to Travel by the Book. I'm Julia Sun. You know, I always wonder, how long will it take before we all realize that no matter how technically advanced our world gets, no matter how savvy we may become, those man-made creations just won't be the same as those of nature's. Where we're going today is a prime example of that. The weather is a dream, and the sands are as white as the smiles of the other travelers you'll meet. It's called the Nature's Sunken Garden. Its other name, the Maldives. First of all, where is it? I remember watching the Olympic ceremony every 2 years, and during the opening parade, the athletes walk in, and then on the screen, there would be a map of their country. Some of them were pretty self-explanatory, like Germany, right? Even if you've never been to Germany, you can see from the map, oh, it's next to France, Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, and the Czech Republic, Poland, etc. With a country like the Maldives, you have no idea. You just see a dot in the middle of an ocean, not even sure which ocean, right? There is no reference point whatsoever. Well, it's not the map person's fault, because the Maldives doesn't border anywhere, really. It's an archipelago in the Indian Ocean. The closest country is Sri Lanka, where it takes about an hour to fly. The second closest country is India. That's probably a better reference. The Maldives is a little over 1,200 miles, or 2,000 kilometers south of the coast of India. It's a sovereign nation, officially called the Republic of the Maldives, located on top of a vast underwater mountain range that has almost 1,200 islands. But what's unique to the Maldives is it's something called the atoll, A-T-O-L-L. It's a ring-shaped reef island or chain of islands formed of coral. They're a little hard to see on our map because they're not huge, but the way they were formed is they used to be the rims of volcanoes. And then the middle part eventually sunk below the sea. Coral built up along the outside, and this barrier reef became an atoll enclosing an open lagoon. You won't miss it when you go. But you know what else you won't be missing? The view. Anywhere you snap a picture, it's postcard ready. A vacation there will give you a glimpse of paradise on Earth. I mean, who wouldn't want white sands under their feet against that perfect sunset, right? You'll probably be staying at one of the 100 or so resorts. Many of them occupy their own little island, private and secluded. You'll be eating off the beach, off the sofa bed, and this is highly recommended. Eat underwater. Party even at the underwater nightclub, or try the underwater spa. They're all there. So that's where the Maldives is at today. Modern luxuries, wine and cheese, no unhealthy buffet catered to tourists. But as you can probably imagine, a small country like that must have constantly been trying to contain the desires of its more powerful neighbors and would-be colonizers. We in the Western world actually don't know much about it, not much about the Maldives before the 10th century. The Maldives was not in any other country's conversation until its conversion to Islam in the year 1153. Anything pre-Muslim period is filled with local myth, there are many of them, along with inconclusive archaeology-related discoveries. But we do know the first group of outsiders to arrive was from the North Africa en route to their trading goodie posts to the Far East. Then, in the early 16th century, the Portuguese, who were rather established at the time in Western India, wanted to build more ports and factories along their trading routes in the Indian Ocean, and the Maldives naturally was a target. More recently, the country has been defined by dictatorship. That's not what they call themselves, but that's what it is in practice. Until 2008, the same man was in the presidential post for 3 decades. People haphazardly called their president the CEO of the Maldives because, come on, the country runs like a giant tourist corporation. It's kind of unfortunate, and it's more serious than I'm portraying it. The country has tons of human rights abuses and police brutalities, and the worst part is all of that is virtually ignored by the outside world. frankly, I don't know enough about this to tell you the ins and outs of everything, but I found this book that is better at illustrating what I'm saying. The Maldives, Islamic Republic, Tropical Autocracy by J.J. Robinson. I never met the author, but he turned out to be an ex-colleague of mine. He wrote for Reuters, which means he probably got onto the director's bad side. He's not the first one, and he won't be the last one. After all, the country is more renowned for modern resorts than the experiments in modern democracy. It is where local girls, unfortunately, are sometimes forced into sex trades, and black market vodka costs $140 a bottle. I think if you are well off enough to be able to afford a trip to paradise, you would be curious enough about how the paradise you're about to enjoy is built, and this book sort of gives you some of the answers. All right, my guest today, Dan Nyman, is an engineer turned comedian. You're like, what? Yes, ask him about that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. He has traveled the world many times over, just like all the guests I have on this show. But the Maldives is one of the most unforgettable places. Send us questions. What do you want to know? We'll be right back. It's fine. His will pick it up.
Okay. And you don't need this one?
No.
Okay.
Cue me.
Okay.
It's not picking up the camera now.
Hey everybody, welcome back. So my guest today is Dan Nyman. You introduce yourself. I don't know how to introduce you. What do you do? Tell our viewers.
Okay, my name is Dan Nyman, and I'm an Intel engineer turned professional comedian. I travel the world doing clean comedy, and I've performed for the likes of President Obama, President Trump, Hillary Clinton. I got started in comedy because my job involved speaking on stage with Intel's senior executives at events all over the world. I was terrified of the public speaking part, so I decided to take a stand-up comedy class to get over the fear of speaking, and had some beginner's luck. Long story short, left Intel to do comedy full-time, performed in 28 countries, been to 58 countries, and just having a blast traveling. And
Yeah,
in fact, you can see right here, travel is my sport.
Exactly. Oh my God, love that.
From the points guy.
You've been, like I said, traveled the world many times over, and then you specifically said you really liked the Maldives. How was your experience there? When did you go? What did you do? Tell us.
Okay, so on Christmas Day, I think it was 2014, there was a mistake fair on Etihad, which happens frequently. It's also called a fat finger fair, where someone left off a zero, right? And so it was New York to Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, for $178 round trip. Okay, and like my buddy, we just booked it right away. I said, let's go to Dubai, right? Because Dubai is 100 miles from Abu Dhabi. And then he decided, hey, let's go to the Maldives and scuba dive, because he's a big scuba dive fanatic. And so we found a fare from Abu Dhabi onwards to the Maldives, and that was 400 round trip. And that's only a couple hours, right? As you mentioned, it's right south of Sri Lanka. In fact, we stopped in Sri Lanka on the way back. That was a stopover, which was included. And then he found a dive yacht for 1,900 euros for the week. Now, that seems like a lot, but here's the thing. Those resorts you mentioned are usually about $500 minimum per night, right? And on top of that, you're sort of stuck on the island, so you have to eat food at their overpriced restaurants.
Buy their mimosas.
Mm-hmm. So here for 1,900 euro, this is about $2,100 at the time, we had 3 meals a day, 17 dives, diving with mantas and sharks and whale sharks and turtles and octopi, everything you could imagine. And it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Beautiful, yes.
What kind of creatures did you swim with?
I swam with a whale shark, which is the largest fish in the world. It's not a shark.
Do you have a picture for that?
Yeah, we have a picture.
Yeah, okay.
And now that's just that's just disclaimer. That's not me.
Okay,
but
well,
we were swimming
your buddy.
on top of this whale shark, more towards the surface. It was amazing. Also swam with manta rays, which are some of the most beautiful, most peaceful animals you can imagine. They told us, okay, when we dived down, they said kneel on the ocean floor and they will come to you. And these huge, like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet wide wingspan, they just come literally like a foot from your head, and you can see inside that there's like nothing inside their bodies. It just, they're the most amazing animals.
They were not afraid of you. They were not afraid
No,
of you.
not at all. No, and it was. And then we had one that was swimming and doing circles, like right at the stern of the yacht. That was, oh yeah, they're the most beautiful animals. Now my buddy has been on 200 dives around the world, and he said he's never seen what I saw on that ship. It was incredible.
And for somebody who is going there for the first time, for example, a lot of our viewers, how many days do you suggest them stopping there for, staying there for?
Well, we did a week. I think most people are going to go to a resort, those huts that go out into the ocean, and I would say a week. And you definitely want to go and explore the other islands, because there's actually 2 or 3 populated islands. There's also Male, which is the capital, which is a lot like Manhattan in that it's totally walkable, and unfortunately there's no subway. But
Probably a good thing.
yeah, all the streets are essentially buildings, but much shorter than Manhattan. But it's really beautiful. And now you had mentioned, there's a lot of human rights abuses and torture, and and I'm like, well, the same thing goes on in America.
Yeah, well, maybe to a lesser extent, but I'm disclaimer is sure it's not unique to Maldives. It's a lot of countries that you find fascinating. They have that kind of record.
Right. But anyway, be that as it may, they're very welcoming to tourists. It's very Islamic, and so everything will be closed on Friday. Say you won't be able to find lunch, but I would say be respectful. Don't dress provocatively if you're a woman. Just
Don't
respect
wear your bikini
Islam.
everywhere.
Yeah, I mean you can wear it on the islands, but on Male, it's a little bit cover up, but it is a wonderful trip all over the Maldives.
Sure.
And Maldives, for those of you who are Star Wars nerds like myself, who go to the movies by themselves, Rogue One was filmed the last quarter or so is in the Maldives, so you can see the beauty of.
Why do you think they filmed it there? It's like because they have to move everybody there.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
Wow, it's a huge undertaking.
Well, they have the budget, I think, for Star Wars, but I think they wanted to make it an island planet, and Maldives is the apotheosis of that.
And then we have a question from Francesca. Hi, Francesca.
Hi, Francesca.
You said during your trip you went from the UAE to the Maldives.
Right.
Say between Dubai or Abu Dhabi, that area of the world, versus the Maldives, which part did you like better? Which one would you say is more exclusive?
Well, those are 3 different things. I mean, Abu Dhabi is a city which is sort of. There are things to see and museums coming up and so forth, but the real attraction in the UAE is Dubai, and Dubai is this huge, think Las Vegas with no gambling and with a beautiful beach that is sometimes the water's like sometimes too warm in the summer, and all these attractions like the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, or the Burj Al Arab, which is the 7-star hotel, which looks like a sail, and all these crazy attractions. Indoor skiing. My hotel was right by the Mall of the Emirates. Indoor skiing. So, we're really talking about 2 different things. Dubai is a city. It's a lot like Manhattan, and then the Maldives are islands. So it's a completely different paradigm.
So you would suggest to Francesca that she shouldn't miss either of them.
If you can, and here's the thing, to get to the Maldives, you have to stop somewhere. So Dubai, of course, is and Abu Dhabi are huge hubs for Emirates and Etihad respectively, and also Qatar for Doha. So if you're going to go there, then it's only a little tiny hop over to the Maldives anyway. So, and then if you have time, Etihad stops in Sri Lanka on the way back and see the Temple of the Tooth. Beautiful country, completely Buddhist pretty much, and just only, as you said, a couple hours from Maldives.
Very close. And then we have a question from John. Hi, John. Are
John.
the Maldives at threat from rising sea levels?
I believe so. I think that there are other islands which are more, like, say, Vanuatu, or I just read about in the Times, an island off of the coast of Bangladesh. You know, if it is happening, I think it's, you know, a couple feet a century or something like that. So I don't think it'll be underwater in our lifetime, so there's still time to go.
Okay.
Right?
And then earlier you said Male. It's like Manhattan, minus the subway. So it's like a place you can roam around. You can, like, you know, buy stuff on the fruit stand, so on and so forth.
I love Male.
Do you suggest people definitely stop by there for a couple days, leave their resorts?
Well, I mean, you'll have to when you fly in. What's really cool about Male, at least for us, is that I don't think there's a way to be picked up in a car. I mean, we were just picked up in a boat and then taken to the dive yacht right away, well, in a little Donny, which is a little small ship.
Yeah, because a lot of people, you know, this happens all over the world. It's like you go to this one country, but you really use that whichever city the airport is at as a dashing board. You're like, I'm here, okay, bye. But you would not say, okay, forget about Male. You would definitely suggest people stop there for a little
definitely. I would say one day. It's just like when you go to Thailand, you know, I'd say Bangkok is good for one day and see the Chao Phraya, and then, but the real beauty, of course, is in the islands like, you know, Koh Phi Phi or Phuket or Koh Samui, etc.
Okay. And then we have a question from Deidre. Hi, Deidre. Hi, Deidre. Is it safe for solo women to travel there?
Well, that's a little bit of a loaded question. If you go to certain countries like India or Morocco, it can be a little bit dangerous. I would recommend, if you can, go with some friends, or it's sort of a tough question because I would say this: if you can go on a tour with some other people or with a friend, solo. The other thing that would make it tough is, you know, you're going to be going to these very expensive resorts, which are like, you know, $500 a night, as I mentioned. I would say solo on. If you're a diver, go on the yacht, the dive yacht, which is very safe. It's wonderful, and it's a party. But as far as Male, I would think it'd be safe, but, you know, just like anywhere else, be careful.
Okay. I mean, if I may chip in, Deidre, I have a very pretty high threshold for what's defined as safe and not safe. Like, I would happily go to some of the most dangerous places in the world by myself. And my rule of thumb is, one, as you said, watch out, always use your best judgment. And two, when I go to, you know, some of the more conservative Islamic countries, I always carry a picture of my non-existent husband. So when people ask you, hey, where's your husband? I'm like, oh, he's here. He's just not here. And so people would not keep asking you questions.
I'm curious, whom did you use for the picture?
Friends.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few Jewish friends. They happily let me pictures, you know. Yeah. So that's usually my rule of thumb. But of course, if you have the choice to go with a group, it's always better to do that. And then, like you said, it's just easier cost-wise.
Yeah, just use common sense. You know,
Yeah.
careful when you get in a cab by yourself, and, you know, so just common sense.
Yeah, and then in terms of Maldives, tell us, when's the high season, when's the low season, when's the shoulder season?
You know, I don't know. I would guess it's always high season because it's pretty close to the equator, and I think the weather's going to be pretty fungible and the same year round. But I'd have to look. I believe I know there's a rainy season in India and Thailand and so on. So I would look that up. But when we went, it was, I think, January, and it was glorious every day.
As far as I know, Christmas is really crowded because, you know, everybody gets off, at least from the Western Hemisphere. People go there, so that's really crowded. It's really expensive over Christmas and New Year holidays. But before that, a little after that, I think it's all good.
That same year, I was in Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur for Christmas, performing actually, and, you know, it's an Islamic country, but I could not believe the Christmas decorations at the malls. I mean, it far outdid anything I've seen in America. And I mean, a choo-choo train with Santa Claus. It was it was incredible.
Right.
So yeah, Malaysia's great.
Okay, let's talk about you. So you said you were in Intel for a while, and then what made you switch over to comedy?
Okay, so all right, so it was really all right. I designed these technical demonstrations that I would present on stage with the CEO and other executives of Intel. And now, being Indian and Japanese, of course, the technical part was really easy, right? And I like to say, joke, you know, when I applied for the job at Intel, they said, "You're Indian and Japanese, you don't even have to interview, right? You can be vice president." But it was, the tough part is speaking on stage in front of thousands of people. And sometimes we were on TV when we were at CES, right? I said, I have to do something to get over the fear of public speaking. So first I went to the Toastmasters Club at Intel, which is good, but the problem, and Toastmasters is a great organization for learning to speak in public. The problem, it was like, you know, 11 other nerdy engineers like me, and that wasn't terrifying enough. So I said, you know what, let me take a stand-up comedy class, because not only do you have to speak, you also have to make people laugh, which is a doubly
It's very
hard.
difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
And so, you know, I did that. The first show was at a club, or the final exam for the class, if you will, is at a club in San Francisco. And
Wait, seriously, final exam?
it's a final exam, right? I mean, you know, you're taking this class, you're learning jokes, you're writing jokes, and you're learning the technique.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you actually perform in a club, and your
Okay.
friends and relatives are invited. I had a great show. They saw the tape at Intel. They asked me to perform at CES at the Intel team dinner for about 200 people. That went really well, and someone came up and said, "Can you do this act at the annual sales conference for 2,500 Intel salespeople?" That was my third show in front of. Now it's 8 in the morning. Okay, no one's been drinking,
Okay.
right? And I just tore apart the CEO and made fun of him and imitated his accent, and
Which is awesome. Yeah.
and they were just dying laughing. And so I moved to New York and decided to take a new job with Intel, and then at the same time pursue comedy.
Okay. How long has it been since people stopped asking you, "Hey Dan, why?" I'm sure for the longest time people are like, "What? You know, why? Are you crazy?"
Oh yeah, in the beginning people are like, "Oh no, you know, comedy is so difficult, you can't make money at it." And I would always say, well, you know, Seinfeld, other people did, and you have to try it, right? It's like you can't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket,
Sure.
right? Or so, I mean, but people always ask why, who I just met, you know, and they don't know me. But you know, by and large, I mean, it was the right decision to make. And I mean, I wouldn't be here with you if I hadn't left Intel. And,
Right.
and,
Well, thank you for saying that.
or being on
Yeah.
Apple commercial or Family Guy or Billions or any of those other things. So it was definitely the right decision.
I mean, there had to be certain times in your life where you're like, "Oh, maybe I should have listened to those people."
Oh no,
Or
no,
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 never?
never, no, not
Okay.
once, no, no, because I loved my job at Intel, loved it, but you know, this is like your own business and traveling, and it's a blast, yeah.
And tell our viewers, where can they see more of your stuff?
Oh, I'm at comediandan.com. Everything is
Very
Comedian Dan.
true.
Instagram is Comedian Dan. Twitter is Comedian Dan. Everything is Comedian Dan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I have one more question before I let you go. So this is from Frank. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Frank.
What would you say to someone who's in their 20s and hasn't traveled yet because of the cost? It is, you know, a serious question because, come on, I think in order to travel, Frank, you need time and money. And if you're busy working, making a lot of money, then sadly you don't have time. And the flip side is when you're in your 20s and you have all the energy, but, you know, you don't
I'd
have
say
the fattest paycheck.
spend all that money you were going to spend on tattoos.
$10 or
Invest
however
that-
much
invest
it's
that.
going. I don't know.
I would say, okay, there's a great book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And he said most people will work, say, 40, 45 years and then retire at a lower standard of living, by the way, and then wait until they're 65 to travel. And he said, you know, work a couple years and then travel for a year. Take these mini retirements through your life because, you know, you don't want to wait till you're in your 60s to enjoy life, you know. And so, you know, work, save some money up. And it's really, easy to travel cheap. I mean, if you find mistake fares like we did, if you use couch surfing and you can stay at millions of people are members of couch surfing and you can stay in their homes for free. I've done it. You can meet people on Meetup. I mean, the internet now, it's the best. You can stay in hostels for $16 a night. So it is possible to travel on a budget, but save money for the important things.
Like
invest it. Well, like travel.
Okay.
Yeah, travel. And I mean, I was at Starbucks and this guy had, had this tattoo and it was $400, and for Starbucks, it probably took him a week to make that much money. And then I said, do you want to get more? He goes, yeah, I want to have my whole arm done. And that'd be like $10,000. And you could put that in towards traveling or investing it in, Apple or something. And then, or...
Because I understand, for people like our viewer Frank and many young people out there, they're worried. Okay, what if I come back from this whole trip, which will be wonderful, but after I come back, what if I don't have a job lined up? What if I don't have anything? What if, all the what ifs?
Well,
how do you deal with that?
I'm the type, I'm a gambler. Like, I like to throw caution to the wind.
You sure
Yeah, and just, so you come back and you don't have a job, well, get a job. I mean, start a business, do eBay or, Bitcoin or, there's ways to make money and invest wisely. And I would just, a lot of people don't have money and they spend hundreds of dollars a month on drinks, and if you have to, I don't drink, but if you have to drink, drink at home. It's way cheaper than spending $10 for a drink at a club, right?
Okay.
So there's
you're,
ways.
You're saying it's worth it. I totally agree with that. It's totally worth it. It's just getting over that mental hurdle. Hey, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna worry about anything else. I'm gonna actually enjoy my time on the way, on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I go to some people's homes that they've got hundreds of books, right? And each of those is $10, $20. You think they've got tens of thousands of dollars of books. I get all my books from the library. I mean, there's ways to save. I'm Indian, so half Indian, so we invented being cheap and save money. I mean, in hundreds of ways. Yeah.
Okay. And do we have another picture of Dan in the Maldives? Just want to show our viewers before we go. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us what was it like before you left?
Okay. Well, on the dive yacht, there was an island. Now there was one dive I didn't do, and everyone went on a dive, and I saw that we were parked off this island, and it was completely deserted. No people, no buildings, no hotels, nothing. So I said, "Can you take me there?" So they took me there in the little motorboat, and I'm just by myself walking down this beach, and it was stunning. And there's just white sand and nothing. And then later that night, I didn't know this, but they took us all over to the island, and they kind of hollowed like a shark. They made like a shark out of sand, and they made this wonderful dinner, and we all sat around eating dinner on this deserted island. It was incredible.
Okay. All right. I'll give you the last word. Anything else you want to tell our viewers? To encourage them to travel, because
in general or to the Maldives?
In general, because this is what I want to project on this show. Is it's really important to have that experience. You can read about it, you can hear about it, but nothing beats you actually going there. That's what I want to.
Here's what I would say. I think something like 68% of Americans don't even have a passport. And Americans is horrible. Americans are known for not knowing anything about the rest of the world. And I think you can broaden your horizons, and you can meet people of different cultures and learn. I was terrified to go to Dubai. I was invited to do a corporate show in Dubai, and I was scared. I'm like, when I got there, I was like, I couldn't believe I was scared to come to this place because it's just this 24-hour party, right? And so I think it's really important to broaden your horizons. I've heard people say, "Oh, I would never go to Africa," which is mind-blowing. That's a whole continent of, hundreds of millions of people, and parts of, Africa, like parts of America, are beautiful, and others are scary. So I think broaden your horizons, travel as much as you can, and there's a great saying that experiences are more important than things, and I firmly believe that.
Yeah. And to Deidre, who asked that question about solo women traveling, I go to Africa by myself, so I think you can do it.
Where have you been?
Oh, I've been to South Africa by myself, which is, pretty safe, but I've also been to North Africa by myself. It's not that safe, but like Egypt.
Oh, okay.
I went to Egypt when the coup was going on, so I was in Tahrir Square just because.
Oh,
whatever.
wow. And yet you're still alive, right?
I'm still alive.
You're
so
here.
If I can do that, Deidre and everybody else, you can do it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan. Dan Ninen, again,
Thanks.
engineer turned comedian, inspiration.
ComedianDan.com is my site. All my contact info is there. I'm happy to help anyone who has questions. I love traveling, and so yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's
you
an
so
honor
much
to
for
be
being
here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. I will see you guys next week.